Hello, everybody. It's been a little while. Sorry, I haven't been around. I've been up in Yakima, Washington, and I'm on my way back right now. Stephen Ruderman here with your Insomniac Lunatic French Giants postgame show. The Giants have now lost 11 out of their last 12 and 15 out of their last 19 games at home. Tonight was the crucial first game of a very tough 16-game stretch and of a massive 3-game series against the Padres and a final 7 games against the Padres. The Giants have 3 against the Padres at Oracle this week and then 4 at Petco next week. The fact that the Mets have been in absolute freefall, they won 7 in a row, and then, now they've lost 11 of their last 12. That has allowed the Giants to get to within 4 games of the Mets for the third wild card spot. The Giants, after trading Tyler Rogers, Camille Duvall, and Mike Yastrzemski away, essentially punting on the season, the pressure was lifted off, and predictably, the Giants got hot, winning 5 of their first 7 games here in August. Well, the offense has sputtered again, losing the final 2 of 3 to the Nationals, losing a series at home to the Nationals, and then welcoming in the Padres 4-3. Now, the thing is with the Mets, if the Giants want to get into the playoffs, they will have to beat out the Mets. The Giants went 2-4 against the Mets, and of course, we don't have one-game playoffs to determine tiebreakers anymore, which is absolutely criminal, but it is the case, and so the Giants will have to beat out the Mets if they want to get into the postseason. Also will probably be the case with the Padres. The Giants came into tonight's game 2-4 on the year against the Padres, meaning they would need to go 5-2 in these 7 games against the Padres to have a winning record against them and really to have any shot at beating out the Padres. And the Giants really, in the 16-game stretch, need to go at the very least 7-9 if they want to have any shot at going into the playoffs. The one thing I will say is that the Giants, they have 43 games left, and after the 16-game stretch is over, they will have 28 games left. The Giants will have an incredibly easy schedule, possibly the easiest stretch of their schedule all year, and may have the easiest schedule of any team in baseball over their final 28 games when they take on the Orioles starting on the 29th. But you can't count on the Mets to collapse. Now, the weird thing is, this was looking to be possibly the strongest National League in the history of the wild card era. Now it's looking like the National League's going to be pretty weak, and it may take as little as 84, possibly even 83 wins to get into the playoffs this year. Again, that's why the Giants have been given a fighting chance. But tonight, not a very good start. Giants have now lost their 3rd straight. The Padres came in and beat the Giants 4-1 to open this 3-game series on a cool and foggy night at Oracle Park. Logan Webb took the ball. He was up against Yu Darvish, who was past his prime, and was whiffing 92-mile-an-hour fastballs past these Giants hitters. The Giants were once again pressing. The Padres got on the board against Webb in the top of the 6th. The Giants responded with a home run by Rafael Devers to left center field in the bottom of the 6th, and then the Padres scored 3 in the top of the 7th. And against that bullpen, good luck. So 4-1 the final. The Giants are back under 500 at 59-60. The Mets did not play tonight, so the Giants are 4.5 back of the Metropolitans for the nearest playoff spot. For those wondering, the Giants are 8 back of the Padres, who occupy the 2nd wild card spot. And if the Giants want to have a winning record against the Padres and have any chance of beating them out for a playoff spot, they will have to go 5-1 in the remaining 6 games they have against San Diego. Logan Webb was pretty solid tonight. It was just the same old story with Logan Webb. Webb was solid, couldn't get any offensive support. Webb went 6 1/3 innings, giving up 8 hits, 4 runs, walking 1, striking out 3. Webb was really solid in the early going, but was struggling a bit later on, and then the 7th inning, it just blew up on him. And late in the game is when things tend to blow up on Webb. It's what happened tonight. Yu Darvish, 6 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, no walks, 6 strikeouts. And then the Padres gave us the 3-headed monster of Estrada, Mason Miller, and Robert Suarez. Estrada took a shot off the foot from Matt Chapman, but he was okay and stayed in the game. Mason Miller struck out the side, and then Robert Suarez threw a 1-2-3 inning in the bottom of the ninth to get the save. Joey Lucchesi came in the 7th after Webb couldn't even get an out in that inning. Fermin hit the home run, screamer down the left field line. Webb was done after 6 1/3, and I lied. Webb was done after 6 1/3. Lucchesi pitched an inning. Ryan Walker pitched got the final 2 outs in the top of the 8th, and then Tristan Beck gave up a hit and struck out a guy in a scoreless top of the 9th. Some positives tonight. Drew Gilbert, one of the guys the Giants got in the trade for Tyler Rogers, finally got his first major league hit. And it was a little broken bat jam shot to left field. I mean, finally gets a batting average. 0.77, of course, isn't the greatest average, but it's better than a punch in the face, I guess. But hopefully, because I've liked what I've seen from Gilbert. I mean, obviously, it's been a small sample size. It's only been 4 games. But I see a lot of Nate Schierholtz in this kid. So he went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts in his debut against the Nationals on Friday. And I get it. That's nothing special. But in his first at-bat, he fouled off a really tough 2-strike pitch, a fastball that jammed him in. He then made a great play to end the top of the 3rd, racing to his left towards the right field line and then having to shift to his right and come in and make a great sliding catch. I think he did take a bad path. I think the Major League debut jitters got to him on that one. But what really stood out to me was the top of the 4th. When James Wood led off the inning with a double off the wall, he played the carom perfectly and then threw an absolute missile and to the infield. I mean, it was obviously too late, but it's like this guy has got a lot of Nate Schierholtz in him. Nate Schierholtz, who got a really raw deal in San Francisco, I truly believe to this day was an everyday Major League outfielder. Kyle says the offense has been bad. The Padres are really good. Well, we all know that. He also says the offense has been bad, but I do give Melvin kudos for trying to get it going with the ground attack with hit and runs and stolen bases. Of course, Gilbert stole second. The throw sailed into center field, and then he was thrown out trying to advance to 3rd, and that ended the 3rd inning. This was after he got his first big league hit. And I get it. It's not, you don't want to make the 1st or 3rd out of an inning at third base, but you're trying to get something. He was originally called safe by the third base umpire and the crew chief, Adrian Johnson, but it went to replay. And if you're the Padres and you're any team challenging a call in the first 3 innings of the game, if you don't get it overturned, you lose your challenge and are unable to even ask for a review until the 8th inning, you better be damn sure that you're going to get that call overturned. And they did. I agree with you. You can't blame him for that. Kyle says, I'm fine with Gilbert taking third on the steal. I am too. You can't blame him for that. You got to get something going. But just my question is, why aren't they stealing bases? They were stealing when they got off to their 24-14 start. They were stealing bases left and right. And then ever since May 9th in Minneapolis, it's almost as if stolen bases are an unknown to the Giants. Have been an unknown to the Giants. Makes absolutely no sense to me, Kyle. Now, again, I don't know if Gilbert's the real deal or not. I've only seen 4 games of him. That's a very small sample size. I'm not holding, his one or his one for however many at-bats he's taken against him. He's new to the big leagues. He's feeling some jitters. He's got potential. We just got to see more of him. Another great question. Kyle Foster says, why is Jung Hoo Lee trying to hit balls into the cove? Yeah, early in the season when the Giants got off to their great start, Jung Hoo Lee got off to a great start. And, of course, Sam Lubman in 95.7 The Game, producer of the Morning Roast, 6 to 10 weekdays on 95.7 The Game, and the host of the Orange and Black Weekend Wrap, Saturdays 9 to 12, 9 to noon, that is, on 95.7 The Game. He and I have been talking about how Jung Hoo Lee when the Giants got off to the great start, got off to his own great start, spraying the ball to all fields, and for whatever reason, he's trying to hit everything into McCovey Cove. And Kyle said they won on the last road trip because they played real baseball. They played the kind of baseball that we saw from them in April. And we would see it from them at times when they were trying to get things going from May through the trade deadline. We saw them do it in their win against the Red Sox on June 22nd. And they did. They got their win against the Red Sox on June 22nd, playing 2025, or what we thought was going to be 2025 San Francisco Giants baseball. Sadly, 2025 San Francisco Giants baseball was just a fourth straight mediocre season, but they did a little of everything: hit for contact, hit for power, pitched and played defense. I think the perfect baseball team has a little bit of everything: small ball, contact hitting, stolen bases, home runs, pitching, and defense. We saw the Giants play the way we knew they were capable of playing when they won 7-9 in early July. And we saw it on this road trip. And then for whatever reason, they're back to trying to hit home runs again. It makes absolutely no sense. And it begs the question, are the analytics people having more of a say than they should under Buster Posey? That's a good question, because why on earth would Jung-Hoo Lee be trying to hit everything out of the park? And the thing is, teams are pitching Jung-Hoo Lee away. I mean, why not go the other way? If they're pitching you away, it's that simple. If they're pitching you away, you make an adjustment, you put the end of the bat on the ball, and you hit it the other way. That's just basic fundamental baseball. That's something they teach little leaguers. If they're pitching you away, put the end of the bat on the ball and go the other way. And this makes me think that the analytics people are having more of a say than they should. I'm being serious here, Kyle. This tells me that the analytics people are having more of a say than they should. And I think a plausible theory is they were winning by playing fundamental baseball. And then when they started pressing, the analytics people are like, oh, you should hit home runs and get. Look, I have no clue what goes on behind closed doors. So I can only speculate here. But it wouldn't surprise me if the analytics people, when they're hitting line, because what gets a player or even an offense into a slump is they hit the ball well, but they start hitting right to guys because the other team is figuring out how to play guys, and then they over adjust. They being the offensive player, and they over adjust and make unnecessary adjustments. And I wouldn't be surprised if the analytics where it's like, oh, just hit more home runs. You won't, if you hit the ball out of the park, won't be hitting them at. I have no clue what happens behind closed doors, so I can only speculate. But there's absolutely no team to be trying to hit home runs after it failed miserably the last 3 years, and there's really no reason for someone like Jung-Hoo Lee and Kyle said Jung-Hoo Lee could be a batting champion if it's the other way. And it's like, if they're pitching go the other way, if they're pitching you away, go the other way. I mean, this is not rocket science. But that's the problem with the analytics in baseball, is it complicates everything. Speaking of which, the Brewers have won 10 in a row, and it's their second 10-game winning streak of the year. They've had an incredible story. They have the best record in baseball and have, I think, a 5-game lead for the second best, a 5-game lead for the best record in baseball. I think the Cubs may have the second best record in baseball. But Jeff Passan made a very arrogant, passive-aggressive tweet saying, "Well, they do everything right there because they're a heavy analytics team." Now, no one on that team's hitting over 300, and only like 3 or 4 guys are even hitting 260. And this was the other day after Jeff Passan was very arrogantly and passive-aggressively attacking Jeff Fry for saying, well, or actually, no, it wasn't Jeff Fry. It was another retired player. And again, continuing today's trend of disrespecting old ball players and just acting like old ball players are not worth anything. And saying, well, you're just bitter that batting average isn't a metric that's used anymore. Yeah, it's a metric that's not used anymore. And look at the kind of baseball we have. Before anyone says, well, yeah, well, the Brewers are using analytics. And yeah, pretty easy to say when pretty much every team is using an analytically dominant one size fits all approach. That's why it really sucks that the Giants have fallen off, because the Giants did things the old way. And by the old way, I mean doing it different ways, all sorts of different ways, which is the way the game is supposed to be played. And it got them off to this 24-14 start. As do I. Cal says batting average is still something I look at, as do I. Batting average is everything, and guys should be trying to hit over 300. Average is everything. WAR is a joke stat. All right, I apologize. My internet's not the greatest. Hope everyone can hear me, Kyle. I hope that you're able to hear everything I've been saying. Batting average is everything. WAR is a joke stat. Okay, so you got everything I didn't cut out until like I was basically okay. Carrying on. So it's easy for Jeff Passan to say the Brewers' approach is working when every team is taking that approach, or when pretty much 90% of teams, or 80, 79 to 90% of teams are taking that approach. 75 is probably a pretty low number, unfortunately. But we've talked about what changes need to be made, who needs to go, and I have acknowledged that it's possible Bob Melvin may need to go. The guy seems kind of burned out. I think it's just possible he just needs a few years off from the game like Bochy did. The coaches need to go. Pat Burrell, and no disrespect to Burrell, great ball player, but the guy's not a coach. He's a scout. Vinny Shestoni, my producer, is here. It says no postseason for 8 or 9 years now. Well, one postseason. What's going to end up being one postseason in 9 years. That's an organizational failure. Now, I can agree with you on that. You know what I think Buster needs to do? He needs to cut down on the analytics staff. All the analytics people, who were here the last 2 years under Farhan. Farhan brought in a bunch of new. I mean, of course, analytics. Farhan was big on analytics his entire time here, but he really went full bore on it in his last 2 years. It brought in a bunch of people over the last 2 years. All of them stayed this year under Buster. Again, I'm not saying all of them need to go. I've tried talking to some of these guys. I know one of them was not very friendly. Two of them were actually very friendly. And one of the two who are friendly definitely knows their baseball. I mean, that person, like the analytics people who know the game, yeah, they can stay. But the ones who don't, the ones who are just corporate bean counters, Buster needs to get rid of them. Kyle says the only thing I agree with analytics is batting your best player second. You want your best guy getting plenty of base thrown around. It depends on who it is. I mean, if your ideal two hitters is a slap and Judy hitter, like Marco Scudero and Joe Panic were your ideal. Freddie Sanchez, and that's one of the biggest reasons the Giants won 3 titles is they had ideal two hitters all 3 of those years. Freddie Sanchez in 2010, Marco Scudero in 2012, and Joe Panic in 2014. Your ideal two hitter. I mean, and that's what the Giants need to do next year. Have a leadoff guy with speed. Have a number 2 hitter who's a slap and Judy hitter who can hit 300. Have your third hitter be a slugger like Bryce Eldridge. And let's talk about Bryce Eldridge because, Kyle, I'm going to call you out because I'm just, you know me, I'm Steven. I speak my mind. I offend people. So the Giants, with the pressure taken off their shoulders following their fire sale, their quasi fire sale at the deadline a week and a half ago, predictably teased us by winning 5 out of 7. And Kyle, you and others, because Bryce Eldridge had 3 great games. He went 7 for 11 in a span of 3 games last Saturday, Sunday, and Tuesday. And you're like, call him up. And I'm like, no. He then went 0 for 4 with the Golden Sombrero on Wednesday. And since the 3-game stretch in which he went 7 for 11, he has gone 3 for his last 18. I love you, buddy. Kyle says it. You're right. I'm wrong. Look, I'm not going to try and be a jerk about it, but I've been around this game. This game is my life and has been for the last 23 years. So I know what I'm talking about if I tell you a guy is ready or not ready. And Bryce Eldridge is not close to ready. And the problem is what a lot of the analytically run teams have done has been to rush guys up. And being ready means more than just swinging the bat well or playing good defense or if you're a pitcher pitching well. It's being mentally ready. It's knowing how to handle difficult situations, like how to handle going through a slump, which he's been doing over his last 5 games. Again, going 3 for his last 18. That's a 167 average. You have to be ready to handle all that. And the Giants have coaches down there working with him. Buster Posey played 82 games in AAA before the Giants called him up in 2010. Now, the Giants called him up in 09 because back then you could have 40 guys on the roster in September. And 2, because the minor league season was over. And so Buster needed some playing time. But the Giants were in a pennant race. And Benji Molina and Eli Whiteside were handling the catching duty. So Buster got 12 at bats and went 1 for 12. He clearly wasn't ready, but he was mainly getting at bats and blowouts, and then he got a couple starts once they fell out of it in the final week and a half. But you don't just tell a 20-year-old kid who has only played now 45 games in AAA. He had played 40 after his game Tuesday. You don't just bring him up there and say, hey, kid, we're bringing you up, and we need you to help us get to the playoffs. No pressure. You just don't do that with a 20-year-old kid like that. Especially having him learn not learn a new position, but play a position he's not accustomed to playing. Not just any position, possibly the toughest position to play in any ballpark in Major League Baseball. And by that, I mean right field at Oracle Park. Bryce Eldridge is a first baseman. There were people saying, call him up to play right field. Call a guy up in addition to after just 40 games at AAA, because after Tuesday he had played 40 games. In addition to, we're going to call you up and we need you to spark this long shot run at the playoffs. We're going to have you play a position you're not accustomed to, not just any position you're not accustomed to, right field at Oracle Park, possibly the toughest position to play in any ballpark in all of baseball. Because the Oracle Park wall, the 24-foot high Willie Mays wall at Oracle Park, with all its nooks and crannies, you got the top of it sticking out. You got the part that's pretty much halfway between Triples Alley and the right field line that changes distance, that has that angle. So if here's Triples Alley and you're going from Triples Alley and right center towards the right field line, and then it bends back a bit and then goes towards the line. You've got that. You've got the fact that the brick then turns into padding. You have the fact that you have the chain link fence in front of the out of town scoreboard on the archways. Even if the Giants were in the thick of it, I would be vehemently opposed to calling Eldridge up. And I don't care if he's swinging the bat, for 2 weeks like that. There's a reason Buster Posey wants to keep him in the minor leagues. And thank God Farhan is gone, because we all know Farhan would rush him up. And then he goes into and having guys learn on the fly in the major leagues level in the major leagues, that's going to totally screw up a guy's development and possibly destroy their careers. Eldridge needs to face his trials and tribulations before he's called up to the big leagues. I'm glad he's gone 3 for his last 18 because, well, 1, it quelled any talk of him being called up, but 2, it helps him go through a slump. He can go through this slump at AAA with the coaches working with him as he finishes his development. This slump is a part of his development. And let's say you call Eldridge up and you put all the pressure on him, and then he goes into a massive slump. That's something that could stick with him a long time. Because remember, Belt was yo-yoed in 2011. Was sent up and down like 3 separate times. Was called up and sent down 3 separate times. And he was never in the minor leagues again after the summer of 2011. But he didn't truly get his feet on the ground as a major leaguer until 2014. He struggled throughout a lot of 2012. Didn't really get together until late that season. Really struggled throughout most of 2013. Didn't get it together till August. And then really didn't find himself as a big leaguer until 2014. You don't want to have the same thing happen with Bryce Eldridge. This is, even if the Giants were right in the thick of things and they hadn't traded Rogers, Duvall, and Yaz, you don't want to sacrifice the future for one season under any circumstances, especially one that's a long shot. And again, Kyle, I've been around the game. I know what I'm talking about here. Bryce Eldridge could be a once-in-a-generation talent for the Giants. He may be the best player the Giants have had since Barry Bonds. And I get it. I totally understand. Giants fans, you've looked at the way they've packed Oracle Park this year. They've been selling out a lot of games. They might hit the 3 million mark this year. They'll probably not, since they have fallen off. They're desperate for something to cheer about. It's been a long time since there's been real magic at Oracle Park, and he felt the magic returning when Patrick Bailey hit his walk-off inside the park home run on July 8th. I get that people want something to cheer about. I get they want to see a superstar. But you have to be patient. And I do believe, and I mean this in all sincerity, that next year's team could be a juggernaut. You'll have Eldridge. You'll have Elliot Ramos turning 26, pretty much entering his prime. I think next year could truly be Elliot Ramos' breakout season. We got to get him to cut down on the strikeouts, but I think it could truly be his breakout season. Jung-Hoo Lee will have a year under his belt. If we can get better coaches in there and get the analytics people out of his ear and just have him be an all-fields hitter, the trio in 2026 of Bryce Eldridge, Elliot Ramos, and Jung-Hoo Lee could be akin to that of Barry Bonds, Jeff Kent, and Ellis Burks in 2000. Rafael Devers. Add a healthy Rafael Devers to the mix. Add Willie Adames, who will have a year under his belt in San Francisco, to the mix. Sign Luis Arias. That's the guy I want the Giants to get in free agency, is Luis Arias. and maybe perhaps Drew Gilbert. And I don't know. I haven't seen enough of Gilbert. I don't know if the guy's the real deal or not. But I do think he could be another Nate Sherrills. I think Nate Sherrills was an everyday outfielder. It was a shame that, as much as we all love Bruce Bochy, I thought Bochy could have treated him better. As much, and I think if I think the Giants absolutely should be given big long look see at Drew Gilbert, and I'm okay with him getting a big bulk of starts in right field. The guy plays that wall very well. Randy Wynn was the best at it. Nate Sherrills wasn't exactly as good as Wynn at playing the caroms, though he was quite good at it himself. But Sherrills had a cannon, as does Drew Gilbert. Exactly. And Kyle says Rafi getting a full off season before coming to spring training with the Giants is going to be great. It's going to be great for him. I think next year's team could be incredibly good. They could be a juggernaut. I do think the Giants need to focus on the future. I think they need to sell Robbie Ray and see what they can get for Ray. I think because Ray is getting up there in age. He may or may not. He could be the way he's been this year for another several years. He may completely fall off next year. I think trade him for prospects, compensate by going after Zach Gallen and or Dylan Cease, sign Luis Arias, and next year's team could be a juggernaut. And I sincerely believe that. But just don't. I get Giants fans. You've waited a long time. I get the fans have been coming back to the park this year. Kyle has the idea of trading my Ray to Miami for Alcantara, but with the Marlins up and coming, I doubt they're going to want to give up Alcantara. I mean, that would be kind of a cool deal, but I just don't think that's a doable trade, with all due respect, my friend. Carson, I've liked what I've seen from Carson Weisenhunt. Weisenhunt was, or is it Wisenhunt? He old school lefty from North Carolina. He's an old school kind of guy. This is what I love about him. I mean, he was at one point one of the top prospects in baseball. He's fallen off the top 100 list, and he has really struggled these last couple of years at AAA. Now, granted, the Pacific Coast League is a very offensive league, and he's been all right in the 3 starts we've seen out of him, but I think he has potential. I think we need to see more of Wisenhunt. I do hope Hayden Birdsong can get it together. I think he's got a lot of potential. Kyle says Miami has Cabrera and Perez with Ryan Weathers. They need another left-handed starter with some veteran experience for a young team. Okay. You better get some prospects from Miami for that deal then, too. Because the point of trading guys like Ray and selling off a guy like Ray in the offseason is getting prospects. And also, while we're at that, bring Tyler Rogers back. Now, even if the Giants weren't sellers, and even if Eldridge was still tearing the ball, I would say do not bring him up. Let him develop. And I think, and this is why I'm glad Buster's in charge, because Buster's been through the process himself. Call Eldridge up in September when they're out of it, and when the AAA season's over. And maybe if he really starts hitting the ball, maybe a little earlier in September, but I would let him finish the season at AAA. The minor league season ends a lot later now. I believe it ends a week before the major league season ends. Let him finish the year at AAA, then call him up for the final homestand against the Cardinals and the Rockies. You'll play meaningless games against two teams that are also playing meaningless games. Maybe the Cardinals will be in it, but I somehow doubt it. But you never know. The Rockies, of course, definitely won't be in it. That's the perfect time to call Eldridge up to get a look-see. Get him a bit of major league experience. Get him a few, maybe have him start 3 or 4 out of the 6 games. Get him a little major league experience under his belt, and then maybe send him back to the Arizona Fall League. And then I think he could be ready to do big things next season. As Kyle, you and I both talked about, it was unfortunately necessary for this collapse to happen because this organization truly needed to realize that being in win now with this core, which is the mode they have been in these last 4 years, was never a viable strategy, and that the Giants had to not only change the core but look to the future. I do hate to say it. I hate to say it, but this collapse needed to happen. It is for the best that this collapse happened. Now Buster can improve the farm system. You still have the pieces in place where just a few right moves and a few personnel changes could make the team, as soon as next season, a real juggernaut and a real force to be reckoned with. And I want the 2026 Giants to be how the 2025 Giants were in April. Unfortunately, the 2025 San Francisco Giants were the fourth straight mediocre Giants team. But the April 2025 San Francisco Giants are what the 2026 San Francisco Giants should be. A team that does a little bit of everything. Plays small ball, bunts, steals bases, hits for contact, plays situational baseball, gets guys on, over, and in, can hit a few home runs, can pitch and play defense. That's your ideal kind of team. Now, sometimes, maybe doing mostly small ball like the Giants did in the 2010s, that never hurts. If you're going to do all home runs, you got to have, one, the right guys to do it, and two, the right ballpark to do it. Like, that works at Coors Field. It worked for Harvey's Wallbangers, the 1982 Milwaukee Brewers. It doesn't work for the kind of players the Giants have had the last 4 years, especially at a ballpark like Oracle Park. So, bit of a wild night for baseball. The Red Sox, the big theme in baseball this season, as we're going to pull up the standings, has been teams, 500 teams, playing over their heads, getting hot, getting to well over 500. Unfortunately, the Giants were one of them. The Giants got to 12 games over 500. The Red Sox got to 13 games over 500. They actually got red hot in June, fell all the way under 500, then went on a 10-game winning streak to go into the All-Star break, 8 over 500, then stumbled out of the gate. I think lost their first 5 of the second half. They got to 13 games over 500. They've now lost 3 straight, though they nearly came back in Houston tonight. The Astros led them 7-2. They scored 4 runs in the 7th inning, but the Astros still held on to win 7-6. The Rangers have definitely been one of those 500 teams. They got hot. They got to 6 or 7 over 500. Tonight, they were looking at getting back to 500. They were down 6-1, but they scored 4 in the 6th to make it 6-5, and then scored 1 in the bottom of the 9th, and then won it in the 10th on a walk-off base hit by Jake Berger. I wouldn't rule. It will be interesting to see how. It will be interesting to see how the American League wild card plays out. The team that I think is definitely for real is the Mariners. I think the moves they went and made at the deadline, getting Josh Naylor and others, and getting Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez, I think the Mariners are the real deal. I could even see the Mariners going all the way. They've got the pitching. They now have the offense. The fans in Seattle are really hyped about that team. I think it's going to be the one good thing about 2025, this has been a much better season all around than last year. I mean, last year there were very few storylines related to teams, and I don't want to take anything from Shohei Ohtani, but the whole being the first 50-50 guy helps when the baseballs are juiced and the bags are bigger. The Mets, the runs that the Mets and the Tigers made late last year saved last season, but then having it end the way it did with Judge's drop fly ball when he should have used 2 hands and only used 1, and having 12-year veteran Garrett Cole forgetting to cover first base. That was brutal. This season has been a lot better overall, and I'm more than cautiously optimistic. I really think we're going to have a pretty epic postseason. We've got a lot of teams going into the postseason this year, most likely, who have a real shot to go all the way. Now, look at the American League wild card. The Yankees have been in free fall, though they won against the Twinkies tonight. I'm not completely sold on Boston. Now, I will say this. I think, and the thing is with Rafael Devers, Rafael Devers is one of those players where he has to be happy. A happy Rafael Devers, he's like Angel Pagan. If he's happy, he's going to be great. He'll be great for the team. If he's not, things will go to hell. He was not happy in Boston, and I do think that there were a lot of guys who did not like him in that Red Sox clubhouse, and I think a lot of the way I think one of the big reasons they've been playing this way since they traded him is they want to stick it to him. It's been long. It's been, it's long been a case in baseball where when a team gets rid of a toxic presence, whether it be a player or a coach or a manager or GM or some other front office guy, they're gonna be motivated to win without him. And I think that could be what's going on in Boston right now. Kyle says the Red Sox have been a team like that, but can we talk about the New York teams? The only reason the Giants have a fighting chance is because the Mets have completely collapsed. Both New York teams have collapsed. The Yankees, I mean, we saw Aaron Boone yelling at his first base coach last weekend in Miami. I mean, I have never, ever seen a manager yell at one of his coaches. Wow. Now you look at the American League standings. Cleveland, I wouldn't rule them out. I wouldn't even rule Texas out. I think, honestly, I think Seattle's the real deal. I think you're going to have a lot of teams battling potentially for those final two wild card spots. You got the Red Sox and the Yankees who have the second and third wild card spots respectively right now. The Guardians are a game back of the Yankees. The Rangers are 2.5 back. And, who knows? Maybe we might see a team like the Royals or the Rays get hot down the stretch. This has been a bit of a weird season. You never know. Now, as in terms of the National League, the only reason the Giants even have a fighting chance is because the Mets have been an utter freefall. I don't know what's going on in the Mets clubhouse. I haven't been in the Mets clubhouse. But I know there was a talk about Juan Soto earlier this year. I remember there was the one where he hit the ball off the wall off the monster at Fenway and wasn't running it out. And you look at the stuff Soto was demanding in contract negotiations, like his own personal suite. You don't want to sign guys like that. Giants definitely dodged a bullet with that guy. And the thing is with Soto is when a guy like that gets paid and they become the top of the heap, they can become very unpleasant. And I would not be surprised at all if Juan Soto has completely spoiled that clubhouse. And what's interesting is these two Mets seasons have been the polar opposite. Last year they were, I think, 11 games under 500 in early June, then got white hot and went to the playoffs. This year they were 20 over 500 in June, and now we're just 8 over. And I was never buying the Mets early this season. Like, I thought to myself, this is a team that I could see collapsing. And I hit the nose on that one. And it'll be interesting to see. And this is why I think the Giants may have a chance. Still, you don't call up Eldridge. I don't care if he's tearing the ball. Don't put that pressure on his shoulders. Be patient. When you look at the standings in the National League, I mean, the Cubs and Padres are going to the playoffs. It will be interesting to see. The Reds lost tonight against the Phillies at Citizens Bank, or at not Citizens Bank Park, Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. 4-1 was the final in that one. The Reds are 2 back of the Mets. You got the Cardinals who are 3 back, Giants 4.5 back. The Marlins have fallen off a bit. They're 6.5. They're 6 back. The Diamondbacks are 6.5 back. I still feel like because of the fact the National League is weak, I think it will probably come down to the Mets and Reds. I still give the edge to the Mets. I feel like they'll probably still find a way to squeak in there. But I do believe we might see a third wild card team with as little as 84 or even 83 wins. And I do not have any expectations that the Mets will go that far in the playoffs. So tomorrow, Robbie Ray will be the starter. His wife sang the national anthem tonight. How about that? Nestor Cortez, he will go for the Fathers. First pitch will be at 6:45. Right now, I just want this team to finish over 500. Let's not have our third straight under 500 losing season and our fourth straight non-winning season. So that'll do it. This has been your Insomniac Lunatic Fringe Giants postgame show as part of Sports Radio Service. This has been a production of Sports Radio Service for Kyle Foster, for my producer, Vinny Shestoni, and for my boss at Sports Radio Service, the great Lee Leonard, I'm Stephen Rubin. Hope you enjoyed my musings tonight. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you soon.